Hey everybody, what's going on? Rob Cesternino back here, and we're in the turret here with myself and my fellow Traitors podcaster. Here he is. Is that Pooya Zambakili?
Hi, Rob. It's me.
Okay.
How you doing?
Pooya,
Yes.
that wasn't cool. Okay? Nobody likes you.
I just said a thing. Okay. Okay.
Oh my God. The
Wow.
traitors are fighting.
They're self-destructing before our eyes, Rob, and we just finished episode 4
And
only.
Dan is laughing all the way to the bank.
Hey, what's this guy's deal? When a funeral happens, he's just safe after it, Rob. It's fact. It's how it works.
Yep. All right. We got a lot to talk about here on a busy episode 4 of the Traitors Season 2. Thank you so much for being here with us live right after the episode. So, very excited about the chance to talk some Traitors here tonight. And Pooya, can I give you and the listeners a little other tidbit here tonight?
I love a good tidbit, Rob. Hit me with it.
Starting this Monday, we're going to launch a Traitors feedback show. So if you miss us here tonight, or if you couldn't be here with us live and you can't get your questions into the chat, which will get your questions in the chat, we'll take your feedback questions coming up on Mondays. And as long as the Traitors stays fun, why not, Pooya? Right? We got a lot to talk about.
We've got lots to talk about. We know a lot of you have a lot of questions that you want to sift through, that you want us to talk through. So what better way than to have a second show to talk about this lovely, lovely season? Because let me tell you, 4 episodes in, already a memorable season, already a good time, and already lots of moments that we're going to talk about for years to come.
And honestly, there could be a Traitors social media segment between this Traitors cast is wild. They're wild on the show, as wild stuff on social media. So a lot to unpack each week here in our Traitors coverage. Of course, make sure you subscribe here on YouTube and in the podcast to get it all. All right, Pooya, give us your thoughts here tonight.
First of all, I'm very excited for us to talk about the poison, the funeral, the round table. There were fireworks on all cylinders, and ironically enough, different people's names came up at every segment. So we had a lot of people in the spotlight, and the person that I think a lot of people thought was going to come into this episode with the spotlight on him was invisible, which is kind of the perfect recipe for him.
Yeah, don't know necessarily how he's doing it. Whether there was like anything that Dan like made an adjustment, or if it was just there's too many other things going on for anybody to think about Dan.
I mean, that's the thing. Like Dan's name, obviously, it wasn't like a lot of people, but there were 2 big vocal people in Larsa and MJ who had voted him in the last round and were bringing him up. It seemed like a lot of people were catching on to, hey, you're being kind of quiet and not giving us information. That's not good. And I think a lot of people have been dissecting his game throughout the week, only for us to get here and zero mention of Dan. Really, even when they're looking at the board later in the episode and saying there has to be a man, they went for CT before they went for the guy they'd already voted in Dan.
Yeah. And that's sort of the beauty of what Dan does, in that, okay, in the beginning of the game, it's like, you're too quiet, and he's still quiet, but it's just too many other people making noise. Like there are some like loud honking sirens that people are like, okay, we got to deal with this. Like we forget about the guy who's being too quiet.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, in games like this, in the beginning, being quiet is enough grounds for you to be sussed. But then later on, because there's a lot of noise going on, because there's so many other factors, because other people might be putting suspicions on themselves by opening their mouth, being quiet kind of helps, especially if you have 1 or 2 people in your corner who think you're a faithful or are operating as if you're a faithful. They'll give you the goodwill that you're not giving yourself by not speaking for yourself, so to speak.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll go through everything from this episode here tonight, but let's just start at the end. And I just want to let find out from you. You've watched every Traitors that is every English language version of the Traitors that is out there. Sometimes these Traitors episodes end on a cliffhanger and it's just smoke. Do you think that there is fire here in this very exciting conclusion of Phaedra versus Parvati?
I think this is fire for sure. I think it was very clear. So much so that at the round table, Phaedra's not hiding her thoughts on Parv. I think she's 100% not happy with Parv putting this much spotlight on her. And I think the cat's out of the bag, the toothpaste is out of the tube. I don't think you can put that back in. I'm curious how they're going to proceed forward, because what we didn't see is them discuss who they're murdering. They still are a team, but I feel like these two are now going to be looking at each other moving forward.
Yeah. Could this just be like, hey, that's not cool. Don't do that again. All right, now let's clear the slate and let's do this. I feel like that in Traitors season 1, I feel like there was a moment early on where the Traitors weren't agreeing, and I feel like that we had like a little bit of a cliffhanger that turned out to be a nothing burger.
Yeah, but I feel like the difference between those two things is that here, even though Parv didn't outright say Phaedra, Parv already said the housewives, and Phaedra is a part of that, and now is definitely taking that as if she might as well have said Phaedra's name.
Pooya, we saw earlier in the episode that Dan pulls Parvati aside. Dan says, hey, Parv, I don't think we can get to the end with Phaedra. We need to throw Phaedra out in front of the bus. Was what we saw with Parvati throwing out the housewives, was that phase 1 of the plan that Dan set in motion?
It could have been. I'm not 100% going to subscribe to the idea that Parvati's doing this solely to put the spotlight on Phaedra. I think where they were, based on the information they had, that they're looking at CT and they're looking at the gamers. We count as gamers. We can't let that happen. I think it was more of a collective defense and not a singular offense on Phaedra.
Right, because Janelle set this up in the episode. There's 3 groups. There's the Bravo, there's the gamers, and then there's like the obviously faithful people. And, you know, if you're Parvati, and I feel like that if you're concerned about somebody in the gamers thinking the call is coming from inside the house, like, is Sandra going to get suspicious if Parvati isn't doing the things that they talked about ahead of time? Okay, well, when we go in there, we gotta be putting the blame on Bravo.
Right. And I think realistically, if you look further ahead and it's like, okay, people are taking each other out, whatever. If there are more housewives closer to the end, they will not banish Phaedra. They will banish me. And if there's more gamers, they'll probably banish Phaedra more likely than they are to banish me. So it's better to work with the group that at the moment you feel like will have your back. And if you're putting up that facade, keep that facade going, because if you say one thing and then vote the other, it's looking way more suspicious.
But Phaedra, like, there is no sus on her at this point, correct?
No,
like
even right now, nothing. No,
even right now, and you know, they got their pound of flesh from Larsa. I kind of wonder if that there will be continued heat on Bravo, or it's like, okay, we went after Bravo, we went after who we thought. It wasn't there, so let's now, okay, what's the next shiny object?
Right, which I feel like a couple other names have come up here. Kevin has some heat on him a little bit. I feel like at the very end of the episode, Trishelle says, I didn't want to vote this way. And I think it was Sheree who was like, then why'd you vote that? I feel like there's other people that are going to have their names come up to the forefront. And I really don't think it's going to be Phaedra. I don't think they're going to go on a line and now go for the housewives or for MJ, who's part of the Bravo universe. I don't think that's necessarily how we're going to see this play out here.
Yeah, for the Traitors, I mean, good for them because to, you know, get the faithful to banish Larsa, like after Marcus was one of the people that was murdered by the Traitors. I mean, that really does not make any sense. I mean, there were so many people like, oh my God, the Traitors, idiots, can't believe Ekin-Su. What morons. She would have been banished. Like, well, then you all banish Larsa.
It's
interesting. Make it make sense.
It's so interesting, Rob, because I do think when Sandra in the episode is talking about how, you know, I don't really care for Larsa, but also she's running the housewives and I'm trying to be their best friends right now. It was working for her until then CT's name comes up. And if you're any of these men and you're starting to hear Larsa wants us to vote for all the men, it's like, okay, well, I'm not about that. I know I'm a faithful. And then that causes some dissension. Rob, Ekin-Su was the perfect person to poison. No, I think Phaedra was a little too worried about being sussed here. I don't even think anyone's looking at Phaedra. This was the perfect shot in the dark that no one has any idea of how to piece together.
It was like that they made this like faulty jump in logic where MJ didn't get killed and they were like, well, they didn't kill MJ. So obviously then the traitor must be Larsa, who's close with MJ. Because otherwise that they had the funeral, they all put the like MJ, this was such an obvious person for the traitors to kill. And then it's like the fact that the traitors didn't kill MJ, it has to be somebody who's working closely with MJ.
If we all thought it was MJ and it wasn't MJ, that's very strange to us, which is funny to me because I feel like if it was MJ, everyone's going to be looking at Dan for the most part, right? Because she voted Dan.
The producers randomly picked two other people. Like there was nothing to it. But they went down this like path to hell, and ultimately Larsa had to pay the price. I mean, after Marcus got killed, I mean, it's so dumb.
Listen, Rob, all I'm saying is they said poison. They thought, okay, who would have done something with the drinks? And immediately from out of nowhere, Janelle says, well, didn't Larsa make us all cheers to her dead boyfriend,
at
Marcus?
Breakfast. Yeah.
At breakfast. Wasn't that a thing? And I thought, wow, you really thought it started that early with the poisoning. I still feel like, how would you figure out who she poisoned if it's her? But listen, I wasn't mad at it. It was fun.
Okay. Who do we think the traitors will kill here?
Okay, so we didn't get a short list here, really. Now there's dissension. And what's interesting comparing this to other traitors iterations, Rob, is that this vote tonight clearly felt like more of a alliance-y vote. Like Janelle telling us what the groupings were is so clear now because this is something that's going to be coming in. So now that obviously Phaedra's not going to want anyone from the Bravo universe gone.
Bravo, like they can't throw out a Bravo person after this.
And I feel like the gamers, quote unquote, I don't think Dan and Parv are going to let that happen. So we got to look at the guaranteed faithfuls, which is honestly always should be the right move. If anyone is confirmed a faithful or no one's talking about, get rid of them because there's no point in having them there. The question is which one?
You know, I feel like that the edit was starting to show a lot of Kevin, and I'm wondering if it could be Kevin.
Kevin got a lot of votes. It's so easy to see Kevin getting more votes on him the next round. So I feel like Kevin is the wrong move here. This is where you take out a pilot Peter.
Yeah, it could be Kevin, Peter, any of like sort of like the just like red shirts people that are I feel like are not getting a ton in the airtime.
Don't get rid of John because I'm waiting for more meme content. He was invisible tonight, but keep him in. I think you'll be fine. He's not going to contribute. He's on an island. You don't need him. I feel like
it's Peter or Kevin here.
Here's the thing. They get rid of Peter, and then immediately they can be like, didn't Kevin and didn't Peter vote for Kevin in the vote before this? Kind of remember we talked about it, Rob, where Peter and Kevin said, we'll vote each other so that we have this feud that so we don't get murdered. They can easily murder Peter here and then make everyone look at Kevin.
What about an outside shot, Trishelle?
Okay, so we did see a final scene with Trishelle in this episode where her and CT were very much bonded, and they talked about Trishelle talked about how he's the only one I trust here very strongly. I feel like I could see a world where Trishelle happens, but also I feel like I don't know. I'm not ready to say Trishelle's name. I don't know if Trishelle would be on the list.
Like Kevin and Peter, I feel like are the first tier we're looking at, and then Bergie also another one. Definitely I think could be in the mix to be murdered. But I feel like that Trishelle and CT are on that next level of like I feel like that. I don't know if Dan and Parvati are necessarily going to protect them, and then it's like I feel like Phaedra likes CT. At least she did from before. So. Maybe she doesn't want to go after CT.
Yeah, I don't think Phaedra's going to let CT happen here, especially against CT was someone whose name is very much out there.
Also
and
that
maybe pivot on votes.
When people are talking about for Dan, like, oh, it's going to be an alpha male. Like, I think that Dan might feel like that's a meat shield in front of him. They may go after CT before they go after Dan. So I think that, but I don't feel like that there's a lot of people that it could be.
No. I think we, even without having the shortlist, I think we've kind of narrowed it down to Kevin, Peter, Trishelle. I could see any of them getting shot. Bergie is also a prime candidate Because while we have seen Bergie be in Sandra's pocket, we also did see Parvati be there to plant the seeds on Larsa with Bergie there. I feel like she knows they can mold Bergie, but if push comes to shove, especially in the heat at the turret right now with Phaedra, if Phaedra says Bergie, I don't think Parv's putting her neck out to save Bergie. I think they are kind of at a place where Phaedra's come in with enough heat that they kind of should just give her the shot, unless it's their number 2 that they do not want to see leave. Just let Phaedra have this for goodwill almost.
All right, let's talk about this episode and go back to the beginning. And we really yada yada. The Deontay has left the building.
The show yada yada, Rob. I got a lot of messages saying I didn't even notice this scene until you posted the photo, but it was a very quick blink and you'll miss it. Deontay walked out of the game right before the nighttime phase after the poison chalice.
Yeah. What the hell happened? We know that he was struggling with this. Did he quit off camera?
Yeah, so Mike did text me in the middle of the episode, and then he told me there was an article out. So Deontay left because after Max was banished, and he had a close connection with Max, he had bonded with Max, he had felt all the lying and stuff was bringing up some childhood trauma for him. So the game got too much for Deontay, and he walked out.
I mean, he was the guy. Okay, that there's somebody here that I'm gonna nail their ass to the wall right now. Like he seemed like he was into it.
Yeah, I mean,
Until
until you get it wrong. Until you get it wrong. You're into it until you're wrong. And then you're like, I can't do it.
But it's just so weird. Why did they handle it that way? And then they went to breakfast, right? The next day. And then they were like, well, everybody's here. Like, well, like,
yeah, they kind of
not everybody
swept it under the carpet. No one talked about Deontay's exit. There was not one confessional saying, I'm going to miss this guy. They just kind of left it to be without any other extra information for us.
Okay. All right. Well, good. You know, he was nice to have him here for a week.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like Big Brother Canada winner Kevin Jacobs kind of encapsulated this well on Twitter this week, saying, I love that he showed emotion. I wish more people would show emotion. And he really did. He really gave us a side that I don't think a lot of people knew to Deontay, including myself.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, look, Survivor 45 got it started. The Traitors keeps it going.
We move on, Rob. We move on.
Yeah. All right. So after we got that, okay, Ekin-Su, she's still alive.
But maybe not.
How are
I
you
love
still
Rob.
alive?
Dan and Phaedra had no idea who Parv had poisoned the night before, which I think added so much more goodness to me here.
Well, this was fun that they ended up letting the 3 traitors be the first 3 people that were in the room. And then Parvati gets to hear that gets to reveal that it was Ekin-Su. Phaedra is not thrilled about that because it is somebody that it was that Ekin-Su voted for Phaedra at the previous night. And so, but it is what it is. And okay, well, all right, Ekin-Su. But then she lives. And Phaedra had, I think, the best reactions to this.
Lord Jesus, not Ekin-Su. Not Ekin-Su.
Yeah. Well, first Lord Jesus, and then she says, well, what is she, Jesus? Like, what was this?
Why is she still here?
Yeah. She came back.
Yeah. Can we talk about the poison scene? Because I think Parvati did this flawlessly. It was so minimal. She kind of let Ekin-Su get a sip in and then took the glass chalice back. No one's the wiser. It worked perfectly.
Yeah. And then Ekin-Su is like, I love you. Like,
you would never be a traitor. I really don't think you're a traitor. And in the midst of this same conversation where she gets given the chalice, she's vocally talking about how she's going to kill these traitors. She's going to find them. And that got a lot of people thinking, Ekin-Su's kind of overacting and being suspicious, which is like the last thing you want to hear if you're a traitor that just poisoned her. But things happen.
Yeah. And so this was, I thought, a tough break for the traitors of that Ekin-Su survives the night. And then everybody's at breakfast and Alan comes in and says, hey, everybody here is still alive, but somebody's been poisoned.
Yeah, I mean, this is a fun moment, I feel like, in the game where a lot of people are going to start speculating of, wait, why is everyone here? What's happening? The mind is racing a mile a minute. The traitors didn't even know what had happened. Did I give it to the wrong person? Which is a lot of fun. I do enjoy this. But then obviously once Alan comes in and hits them with the monologue, hits them with the someone was poisoned and they're going to die later at the end of the mission, I think that's when everyone realizes, oh my God, none of us are safe. Unless, of course, you were one of the 3 people with the shield and you're living life.
Okay, so we're getting a lot of like the conversation about who could it be. Janelle gives us our 3 alliances: Bravo, the gamers, and the obviously faithful. And people are starting to give their picks. Larsa has this idea that it has to have been an alpha male, because only a man would take out all these other guys. The Johnny, Marcus, and let's see,
that was it. Of the murders, it was Johnny and Marcus. Yeah.
And then it was Max got banished.
Right. That's an interesting logic for Larsa to put out there, because again, there's more than one traitor. And you're focused in on, okay, let's whittle down the men. One of the alphas had to have done this to be threatened. I feel like logically, and obviously as is with the game of traitors, the same thing can apply for both do it or don't do it, where wouldn't the man be better off keeping all of them in to hide behind a bunch of them, hide in plain sight amongst all of these men? Yes, but also she's not wrong in that there is a man amongst them. But she had Dan initially and then swapped it to CT because he's the alphaest of alpha men, Rob. The epitome of alpha is CT.
I mean, chances are there will be a man among the traitors. Like,
right. If we keep banishing them, we'll get there eventually.
It's a pretty good shot there'll be at least one guy that'll be a traitor.
Yeah. Also worth noting, I imagine when Deontay leaves, they do tell the rest of them Deontay was a faithful. It's not like they leave that ambiguous for them to be like, oh, well, maybe Deontay was. They for sure know Deontay's a faithful upon his exit. So,
yeah. Not too many traitors just quit the game, is what you're saying?
Well, if they do, I feel like they would tell them for sure. Like, okay. And also, if you're a traitor, you're probably not going to leave. I mean, actually, if you can't handle it, if it's too much for you, you might leave, but it's not happened yet.
Yeah. All right, Pooya, lots of people are really starting to sour on Ekin-Su. She's being very dramatic. She's being very extra. Obviously, she is a traitor.
You know what they say, Rob? You overact, you do the most, you be suspect, you're a traitor. Easy as, which is so funny to me. Because again, they were wrong. But this is perfect because the traitors, are melting inside upon realizing how much people are looking at Ekin-Su, and they would have probably banished her. Now, I would argue to say it ultimately worked out in the best possible way for them, but in the moment, they don't know that.
Yeah, and Janelle really comes hard after Ekin-Su. Did she say Ekin-Su sucks?
Well, listen, Ekin-Su did give her some shade in the last roundtable, saying that she's a selfish faithful for going after that shield, and she did harm Rob. It wasn't a big harm, but it was a harm nonetheless. So obviously Janelle's not gonna have sweet things to say about Ekin-Su here.
Yeah, everybody just really sours on Ekin-Su like very quickly.
It didn't take much. I wonder what else she was saying overnight, because this energy was not seen from me for most of the last week episode.
Yeah, she seemed like she was not really doing anything.
I would have loved more Ekin-Su at the round table, because I think the arguments, the verbal battles would have been great to see. So gone too soon from that element, but otherwise, I don't think she was really delivering all that much until this Janelle feud started.
Okay. We got Dan telling Parvati about how we need to throw Phaedra under the bus. What do you think about this from Dan?
It's, again, I think a lot of people have talked about how Dan played the first week poorly, the first 3 episodes poorly. And I don't disagree there whatsoever. I think he was being too quiet. I think it was getting too obvious. But I think one thing a quiet strategic player does well is use that quietness to observe and not just fade out and be in the clouds. And Dan clocks that Phaedra is situated really well and right now is primed to outlast both of us, which is what we were saying from the outside. So I love that from him, that he recognizes this. And I think realizing that, okay, I can't do this myself, I need Parv, is also very smart.
So, Pooya, you've seen this play out so many different ways, and
Yes.
so I just would love to know that what you think about like Dan's logic here of like, hey, Phaedra is doing a good job. We're not going to win if we go to the end with her. She's doing like nobody suspects her. We need them to like at least get a sniff here. So for us to win, we need to give up Phaedra. Do you agree with that logic?
I think the reality is Dan realizes that his name has come up and that he's close to being ousted or banished at some point, and realizes, okay, well, I need to start making some moves because my longevity might be like in jeopardy here. And if I go, I don't win. So I got to do something, because I think the argument can be made that this was too soon. If you're Parvati, if you're Dan, I think this is the right time, because again, your name is starting to be out there and you might get banished in the future. And ultimately, having seen many iterations, you've seen people go after each other as traitors for a lot less. And I think realizing that amongst us there is a front runner, I got to start mounting some evidence there, because right now there's zero. You got to do something. You got to make some splashes, make some movements. I think in this episode, there wasn't a lot of evidence put on Phaedra, but you did weaken Phaedra by removing Larsa a little bit at the very least.
But is catching a traitor, is it kind of like Battleship where it's like, okay, if you get one, are you closer to getting the others?
Not necessarily. Sometimes the hubris from the
Doesn't it give you
faithfuls.
some information of like, okay, all right, we got one. Okay, now we're getting closer. Okay, what was that person doing? Who were they protecting? Who were they like I feel like that there's information to be gained from like you could give her up, but I feel like it hurts you too.
I think it depends, Rob, because right now, looking at, and it depends on the cast. Looking at this cast, if Phaedra was to get banished and then Phaedra gets up there and says, I'm a traitor, and leaves, I think a lot of the rest of the castle is going to look at more housewives, which is incorrect. They're going to go the wrong way, because like, who's Phaedra ride or dying with? Okay, it's people here. Some of them must also be a traitor. That's where they go. I think that's when that would work out for them. Whereas we've seen other iterations where there are two traitors, thick as thieves. They're backing each other always. And that's a risk of getting caught out. But I don't think Phaedra gets banished and they're like, all right, Dan's the other one. I don't think that happened.
Mhm. Yeah, I know. I see in the chat, I like Dan's logic to give the faithful something, but like
Feed them. You have to feed the ducks, Rob. You have to. You have to give them something, and then they celebrate, and then they get hubris. They get a big head.
They get a big. They feel like they know something. It's like I don't know. If you rob a bank with two other people, it's like okay, we got to make sure we get away with it. So we got to turn one of us in. It's like I feel like there's a lot that can go wrong with that plan.
Well, think of it this way. If you're Dan and people are looking at you, but you're not getting banished, but they're constantly getting it wrong, they're going to keep at you because they're like, okay, everything else has been wrong. This one isn't. I think this one isn't. If you feed them, that's a new shiny thing has happened, an achievement. They're like, oh my God, that's incredible.
It depends on the way it comes out. Like if Dan starts to say like people like, hey, when I said I don't miss, I'm thinking Phaedra. Okay. I'm telling you, like that's the move tonight. And then they get one, and then it's like maybe Dan is golden after that.
It's possible, but also the other side of that coin is no one should be that confident of a traitor unless they know, because they're also a traitor. So again, with the traitors, it's always a double-edged sword. You can look at it on both ways. It just depends on the finesse of the player to pull it off.
Okay. All right. Pooya, let's talk about tonight's activity where we went to a funeral where we were going to find out the identity of the person that was poisoned.
I love this. This is a brand new mission. They did this, spoiler alert, same mission in Traitors UK episode 7, if you're looking for that. But I love it. I love the concept of we're going to march to this funeral, and by the end of it, you, the players, have to vote for who you think is the one that got murdered to get the prize pot. I think it's great.
Yeah. Okay. So I thought that some of the questions were like not super amazing or interesting.
The questions were meh. I mean, they have to whittle them down somehow. And we had question 1 was, those of you who share the same birth year are fine. So if you had one person that was the same year as you, you were okay.
Yeah.
Again, not a
Hard
lot
to
of
blow that one.
there. Yeah, you
Unless
better know your
somebody's
birth
lying
year.
about their age. Some of these Bravo people could be lying.
MJ was like, I'm not revealing it to
Yeah.
anybody. It would have been very funny if I was like, nope, you're wrong, because MJ didn't say the right year.
What'd you think about Sandra? I was like, hey, she's like, I couldn't believe that Larsa and I are the same age. She looks 10 to 15 years older than me.
Did she say older or younger?
I thought she said older.
Oh my God, did she say older?
Yeah. Yeah, Larsa caught astray by Sandra.
Oh, it's
David
Sandra.
says Sandra roasting Larsa was hella funny.
Oh, that's so shady. That's so much. That makes way more sense for Sandra getting that confessional.
Older.
Yeah. I mean, that I should have put two and two together with the later stuff.
Larsa looks pretty good. I mean, she got Marcus. Like, I mean,
oh, remember, Rob? We talked about Marcus Jordan and Larsa last week.
I do. I do.
They're reunited once again.
Like I mean, not, just to do some quick math. Is Sandra saying that Larsa looks like she's like 65 years old?
Yeah, I mean, Rob, it's a dig, right? It's you're trying to cause harm.
She doesn't like Larsa, I think.
Yeah. It's like, yeah, wow, you look great for 49. I thought you were 80. Like, it's kind of like that vibe. You're just a side swipe.
Okay. We got a question. Who does Johnny Bananas trust the most? I thought that's kind of a weird thing.
Gimme. This was a freebie gimme.
Mm-hmm.
Of course they're all gonna, because Johnny was murdered night one. So of course he's gonna name the two people he has history with. Like, this was a gimme for them.
Yeah.
I love CT though, being like, he's never done anything good for me. This is the first time he's ever helped me.
Yeah. Pooya, have you been following any of the Johnny Bananas social media drama?
Yeah, so since we last spoke, the next morning, Rob, Johnny Bananas has been on these Twitter streets.
It was a weird week on Twitter.
It really was. It felt like Johnny was trying to throw anything he could to get.
And I'm not just talking about the Traitors.
Are there more stuff? Did I miss something? Or am I not thinking of something?
Go ahead. It was a weird week. Yeah.
We'll talk after. We'll talk when it's off the air. But no, Johnny Bananas was trying to get Dan's attention on Twitter, throwing every insult he could at him for getting rid of him, that he's this, he's that, whatever. And to Johnny Bananas, I say, sir, you have been on reality TV since the invention of the airplane in 1903. So you should know better than anyone that when you sign up for a game called Traitors, people be backstabbing and doing shady stuff. Like, just let it go. Let it go. Oh my God, I just realized what you meant by Twitter.
Yeah. God. Unrelated, Pooya. Okay.
We move on, Rob. We move on.
All right. Yeah. All right. So then we got what was the third thing?
The third question was, okay, let me look at my notes because I have it over here somewhere.
Oh, who was on the red team? Whatever.
Oh, that was another gimme. It's like, yeah, who was in this team?
Yeah.
Yeah, you couldn't blow these questions. I feel like they wanted them to have the chance at the 20K.
All right, so we get down to the last three. MJ, Ekansu, and then Parvati are in the three caskets. Okay, get your black roses, and we're going to throw them in.
Yeah, and they already decided it was MJ. Everyone unanimously put roses in MJ's coffin.
Mm-hmm.
So there wasn't a lot of suspense here. Of course, we knew Ekansu's coffin's going to close. So it was just waiting for that moment that they're wrong. But I did love hearing the Traitors talk through it and say, yeah, the 20K is not worth it. We need to stay undetected.
I don't know. It was such a weird, like fake out. Like they go to Dan and Dan's like, well, like people are putting their things in MJ, but I know it's Ekansu and I could put it in Ekansu, but do I want that kind of suspicion on me? And like, no, of course you don't.
Yeah, and you don't have the votes either. Like, you do not have the votes. The two of you can't do anything about it.
Every single person has put the rose in MJ's casket, but like I could be the one person to go put one in Ekansu.
I think that raises more because the obvious thing is to be like, wow, how did you're such a good detective. No, they're gonna be like, did you know? Because it makes no other sense. I think in this one you just go majority always.
Nobody would do it.
No.
Okay, so then Alan reveals that the person that was poisoned was Ekansu, and he kicks the casket shut.
Shuts the casket on her. Everyone's shock and awe, and Ekansu is buried alive.
Yeah. My son was in the room
Oh
for
no.
this segment. He's like, Dad, did they just bury her alive? I think they probably took her out.
Oh, was it one of your sons that's a fan of wrestling or no?
Who, Dominic?
Yeah, was it Dominic?
Yes.
All right, I guess he's not watching Attitude Era Wrestling, so there's no buried alive matches these days.
No, no buried
Or
alive.
when they do, you know,
But
to not
they
watch
probably
them.
they probably said, all right, Ekin-Su, hop out. Right?
I
Before
mean,
Fergus starts to shuffle the dirt.
I love that the US franchise, like the only one that needs a sidekick to Alan. They're like, Fergus, you have a job. Because the man is not a man of any words, but gets a sweet paycheck.
Took her out. Come on. Yeah. All right. So Ekin-Su is gone and murdered by the traitors. And everybody's like, what? Traitors, you're so dumb. You're so stupid.
Which is why, I don't know if this is a hot take or not. I haven't checked the temperature with everybody. I think this was a phenomenal pick. This was a phenomenal murder.
Yeah.
Whether they like it or not. I think because you can't pinpoint and it's like, well, that was stupid because we thought Ekin-Su was bad. Great. Because now you're going to try and figure out why there was no logical reason and they can move on.
It's great just to be random. I mean,
Yeah.
give them nothing.
I think that's always the move, is make it random. And obviously in this instance, pick someone who just wasn't paying enough attention, because Ekin-Su had no names out for them of if it's me, it's this person or it's this person because they gave me something to eat or something to drink. She gave them nothing, which was the perfect parting gift for Parvati.
Mm-hmm. All right. So we go back to the house and now everybody starts talking about what they are thinking. We find out that Sandra, who I think is like under the radar, playing like a pretty good game.
I think so. I think Sandra's playing a phenomenal faithful game. It helps that Sandra has someone in the turret that I don't think is ever going to murder her, really, at the moment, at the very least.
Who's that, Parvati?
Yeah, I think so. I think both Parv and Dan.
That Parvati and Sandra, like, I guess whatever beef that they had coming into this, it seems like that maybe by way of peppermint, seems like the beef is squashed.
I mean, these are two adults who, had a couple Facebook posts back and forth, a little Instagram screenshot. We move on. It's not worth it.
Yeah. Like in these Survivor streets, it's like some of these people, longer than you've known, like your closest friends.
Yeah. It's been a minute. It's been nearly 20 years.
It's sometimes like, it's like, some of these other like survivors, like we know each other longer than like I don't even want to say. It's like, oh, really,
but say
like longer than like some people that are watching these shows have been alive. Like it's like
yeah. It's been a lot. The show's been on the air for how many years? Mm-hmm. It's a lot. So absolutely. I mean, to me, it doesn't shock me. I feel like, I don't know if it's just me, but in this day and age, with the way our social medias are set up and the internet set up, there's so many lives and posts and forums and tweets and YouTube videos. Like, things drown out quickly to me. Mm-hmm. So all it takes is for 4 days to go by, people stop talking about it, you message each other, you move on.
Yeah, I mean, Parvati and Sandra have known each other for what, 14 years?
Yeah, I would say at least.
I mean, that's when they went to go play. Actually, I'm sorry. It aired in 2010. So they played in Heroes vs. Villains in 2009. So, look, yeah, it's 15 now. Yeah. But like, okay, you get into a fight on Facebook now. Like, that doesn't end the friendship necessarily.
No, I mean, even if they get to the manor, they get to the castle, and there is still some underlying tension, which obviously when the game started, they both were kind of like, I don't know if Parvati really said, I'd be happy if Sandra's not here. But in a game like this, when there's one other person well, it's better to stick together no matter the state you're in.
Like Trishelle and CT, I don't really know their history, but like I'm sure that it's a decade plus that at least that they know each other.
Yeah, again, faces will always help you in a game like this with the Traitors, because unless there is a worry that you're going to figure them out, then you're fine. They're not going to go for
Dan and Janelle, where it's like, okay, that they may not necessarily have always gotten along, that but Dan was on Big Brother. I mean, what year was Big Brother 10? 2008?
The math. Oy, my head. Yeah, let's say 2008,
Something like that.
2009,
Like,
something like that.
2009, I mean, and then he played with Janelle in BB14 in
20,
2012. Like,
yeah. So it's been a
these are
while.
like these deep relationships. I feel like that they run deep, and you're better off with the devil in these traders games than the devil you don't.
Yeah, and I think you continuously show people that you're close, that you're friends, that you know each other, you go way back, and then you murder them later in the game, and you're like, well, I would have like Parvati would have never murdered Sandra. They're both Survivor. Like that would have never happened. Like that's when you can use it for deflection later. But getting rid of them in the early game is just going to harm you, in my opinion.
Yeah. All right. So Sandra, she's gotten in good with the housewives, but Parvati is pushing hard for Larsa.
Well, I love that they gave us this flashback because of all the traders I've been consuming in this last week. I forgot, Rob, that when the blindfolds came off, Larsa was the one who said, listen, my ears, very strong. I heard Alan to the left of me. I think person to the left of me was it, and which was Parvati. So I forgot about that being set there. And then obviously we had seen a lot of how much control Larsa did have.
Yeah. Now, Larsa, meanwhile, is pushing very much for a man. And she goes to the board and she's looking at all the pictures like us. And she gets it down to Dan and CT, but says it's got to be an alpha male. And CT is the alpha male compared to Dan.
Why do you think that is, Rob? That CT was out alphaing?
Why is CT the
Dan?
alpha? I mean, I think if you are gonna go by like who's the alpha, I think that the CT is like a bigger guy. Dan is trying to like shrink down and hide and like please nobody talk to me.
Yeah.
So I think that CT, if that's what you're going for, I think it's going to be CT over Dan if she's looking for who's the alpha male.
He's got the gift of the muscles, Rob. He's got good muscles, built man. He's mentioned, I guess, at some point that he's an actor, which they can also try and like justify. Okay, it's him. He's doing an act. He's doing the most.
Yeah. Well, do we know what CT has acted in?
I remember that he was cast in a movie. I don't remember if the movie ended up filming, but I remember he was cast in something. It was like was it like a 20s movie or like a 40s based on something in the 40s, something like that. It evades me now. I don't remember the name of it.
Yeah. Okay. So CT challenge
was last
movie.
Year.
Okay. So it's not was he co-starring with Cody Calafiore?
No. He was in a movie with
The Most Dangerous Game.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it wasn't the Traitors.
CT.
Yeah. He's an actor, Rob.
Yes. Okay.
Which his resume outstacked.
Tom Berenger, Bruce Dern, Judd Nelson, and Casper Van Dien. He's in like a real movie.
Yeah, it's a proper movie.
Yeah. Look at CT.
Making moves out here.
Yeah. Okay. Good for CT.
All right, Rob, movie night. When are we doing this?
I don't know. All right. But could he be a good enough actor to be a traitor?
Apparently he, which to me is funny that in the same game, same mission where it was, okay, who did Banana say you trust the most? CT and Trishelle. No world is someone murdering someone who trusts them the most unless they're trying to take the scent off. So again,
unless they're playing the most dangerous game.
Exactly. It's always a double-edged sword with the traders. You can logic it both ways, and one way could be right, one way could be wrong, both ways could be right or wrong. So there you go.
All right. So we see that Sandra gets word about the CT situation. And Sandra traditionally has like tried to work with the guys. Sandra likes to work with where's Boston Rob? Where's Rupert?
Rob.
Where's Malcolm?
I feel like, and obviously we don't have any proof of this, CT feels like an end game faithful to me at this moment. I feel like we're seeing Sandra talk positively about him. We have seen Phaedra talk positively about him. I feel like even though his name comes up here, I think he's kind of like no one's going to look at it again. I just feel like CT is going to go far.
You've got the
And
tragic.
hey, the Tradar, as
The
it were.
Traitors.
Yeah, the tragic. Exactly. I don't know. He kind of is giving me later game. Obviously, the more clear he gets, the more primed he is for a murder, though.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Is
Something about
anybody
him
else
feels
giving
like.
you that?
I mean, Sandra's getting a lot of good faithful content, and then Janelle in this episode got a lot of confessional faithful content as well. So they'd be
So
the
it sounds
three I
like you
look
think
at.
that the gamers are going to ultimately win out.
Well, not all of them. I think one, maybe two of them will get further. Because always with the traders, you're going to get a couple of the silent people who are not getting a lot of an edit, an invisible edit, who pull up later at the end and are at the fire of truth or whatever. So yeah,
Okay.
but just something to look out for. I feel like they're looking good for me right now.
Okay. Let's talk about this round table because this was the most heated round table I think that we've had.
I do think so. I think this was heated more than the others because multiple people were going at each other at the same time.
Yeah. Okay. We got a couple of different big heavyweight fights. We had Janelle and Larsa.
Yeah, Janelle opens up the round table and immediately says, I'm kind of looking at Larsa. You know, Larsa, you said cheers to Marcus, and then everyone drank and someone was poisoned. And Larsa says, yeah, and well, I think that's weird. You think that's weird? I think you're weird. I think how selfish you are is weird. And, you know, listen, I love good petty shade. This didn't feel like tip top shade. Kind of felt amateur hour a little bit. No offense to Larsa. I'm not saying she's not capable of shade, but your face is weird energy. You know, it's like when a kid says your face is weird. It kind of felt like that. It wasn't as good as it could have been.
Okay. We had then a little bit of Kevin and MJ.
Kevin is getting number one dodo edit, first of all.
Yeah.
He apparently has been bogarting all the food, hoarding the snacks, the hors d'oeuvres. He didn't really drink, but he ate a lot. And he's been kind of touted as a dummy, but then when MJ brings up his name, because Kevin says, I don't really subscribe to this alpha male theory, it was so funny. He's like, if I was a traitor, I'd murder you because you annoy me.
Yeah.
Find you annoying.
Kevin is annoying. There's a lot of like, Kevin's not smart enough to be a traitor.
And I see it.
What's he from? Bling Empire?
Yeah, it's a Netflix show about and monies.
Yeah.
Yeah. I haven't watched it, so I don't really know what is the empire built on. Is it like a jeweler? Bling? Is he a jeweler? I don't know.
Yeah. But for whatever reason, people do not like Kevin.
Yeah. I
good
feel
looking
like
guy. But they don't like him.
No doubt. Good looking man, but also not the brightest bulb in the room, our dear Kevin here.
Yeah. Okay. Then we got Parvati versus Larsa. And this is when Parvati talks about the Bravo Alliance.
I don't know how I feel about this. I feel like on one hand, publicly putting out there, hey, the Bravo Alliance is putting hits out on people, and it's not hard to conceive that a couple of them could be bad. But on the other hand, okay, now you've pissed off Phaedra, who is a traitor. You've also pissed off the rest because you can't banish all the Bravo. You're going to maybe get one of them here. The rest of them might be looking at you. So I'm a little worried for Parvati here, whereas last week I thought she was in a decent spot. Now I feel like there's some spotlight on her, and we'd have to do a head count, but I think she's still safe if the other side, the non-Bravo side, aren't voting for her and vote for someone else, so to speak.
How do we feel like Parvati is doing?
I think, first of all, the poison chalice, she did flawlessly. I think it worked out in her benefit. I think her and Ekansu being close even makes it more so that it's not her who did it, which I think is great. I think she clearly has the protection of Dan. I think Dan very clearly doesn't want to get rid of Parv, which is good for him. I think that she has the support of Sandra. I think she's doing decently socially, but right now she is now upset at least 4 people?
Yeah.
5?
Yeah. I'm just wondering, like, is it possible that Parvati is doing worse than we've seen? And I was very high on Parvati after week 1, and I don't think she did necessarily anything particularly bad in this episode. But, you know, we have this moment here, and then Phaedra tells Parvati at the end of the episode that nobody likes you and everybody thinks you're a traitor.
Yeah.
Now, I don't think Phaedra's making that up. I feel like that we have heard, like, in passing, a person or two mention that before. Could the edit be hiding just how sus people may be of Parvati?
It's entirely possible, because I think if you had us power rank the traitors standing last week, we would have said Phaedra, Parv, Dan. I think right now we would probably say Parv is third because of all the spotlight on her now. I think that's an interesting thing that's mentioned. Also, it was mentioned that Parvati kind of walks into a room and like doesn't say anything, kind of sneaks her way
Snow
in.
White.
Right. So there's a world where Parvati's doing worse than we're being shown, but also I don't see why they would not show us that. So I don't want to think about it too much, because then I'm trying to read an edit.
Out maybe sooner than later, and they want us to be surprised.
I mean, that would be surprising. That could be the case. That could be the case for sure. I'm just very curious. I'm very curious to see exactly what's going on there, because I agree. I don't think Phaedra just comes in to say that to hurt her feelings. You know, I feel like that to me, it came from a place of frustration. Obviously, we could be wrong, but it came from a place of frustration where Phaedra's like, I'm working with you. No one else is working with you. In fact, they're not a fan. They're not looking at you well right now. That you're not in a good spot, and you're burning my bridge with me. That's not okay. So we'll see more next week. But
yeah. Okay. In terms of the votes, did anybody's vote to banish surprise you?
Okay, so the votes were relatively close. We did see Sheree vote John and said, I don't think he's a traitor. I just need more time, which is essentially a burn vote. And then who was the other? John votes for Kevin. Well, that's fine.
John votes for Kevin.
Yeah. Peter votes for MJ and says, you should have been murdered. So that's what I'm going off of again.
Okay. Yeah.
Perfect for planting futures.
Larsa ends up voting for CT. And is the only person that votes for CT.
Yeah, that's hilarious. They picked the target and then none of them went for it. I wonder if Kevin's name had come up more, because we did see Tamara bring it up a bunch that she does not like Kevin. Kevin annoys her greatly. So maybe there was more influence for the Kevin vote there that Larsa was not really following.
Yep. And Larsa is banished. She stands up and tells everybody that she's been faithful from the start.
She says, I hope you switch directions. I'm a faithful. And now this is interesting, because typically when a big heated roundtable like this happens and someone goes and they're a faithful, the eyes will start looking at someone who led the charge. And would you say Parvati led the charge, or is that how the show made it look to you? Was she the main?
Well, I feel like that they're looking at the gamers, because I feel like that Janelle started it, but Parvati piled on.
Right. I'm so curious. I'm so curious what next week looks like, because to my knowledge, we didn't have a next time on. And I'm very curious to see how that plays out, because the housewives, they are looking out for each other, working together, but also they were kind of scattered all over the place votes wise. So even if they're looking at the gamers, they need to vote together.
Yeah.
Burning votes here is only hurting them.
Yeah. So who are our true housewives? Okay. So Larsa is now gone.
Tamara.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sheree. Phaedra, Sheree, Tamara. But MJ is not a housewife. MJ
She's from Shahs of Sunset, which is on Bravo. But no, not a housewife.
Okay. So we have 3 housewives left.
Yes. So 3 might be enough where they don't just get picked off. I don't know. I really don't think they're going to follow that line of logic at all.
Here, let's talk about some Traitors news from this week. So it got reported that we got both two news stories about Traitors.
Yes.
One, we saw Dr. Will was going to be here. I thought he was coming this week.
Yeah, which ultimately makes sense. He didn't, because this episode had the funeral and he was not, based on the previous episode, not dressed in funeral garb. He's dressed in like a detective garb in front of a shack looking thing. So I think he's part of a mission soon come, but it wasn't this one.
Okay. A little weird. I feel like we have not had like guest hosts for the missions.
I'm not mad at it, especially when you have the star-studded cast and you
Look,
had someone you
bring
reached out
Dr. Will
to.
into anything as far as I'm concerned.
Right.
My all-time fave, bring him to anything. I just feel like we haven't ever had like a guest host.
Hmm.
Does Alan have like a movie project that he has to go shoot?
I don't know, but I feel like he has to have been one of the people they reached out for season 2 who said, "No, but I'll make an appearance for a fee." And I
Mhm.
feel like this is the Dr. Will special. You get Dr. Will on your show.
I think that's a thing. It's like House of Villains had this too, where it's like people
Yeah.
that were like, no, I don't feel like it, but like I'll stop by.
Yeah. And, is there a world where we see Dr. Will play again? I really don't think so. So
Hmm.
this is about the closest we're going to get to see him on this show. And I feel like it's the perfect place to have him,
Hmm.
given the star-studded cast they did put together here.
Yep. Okay. So, and no better place for Dr. Will to be talking about skincare and everything that Dr. Will talks about than on Bravo.
Make your money where you can.
Yeah. Okay. So, but then also Kate Chastain is coming, and not just to host, to play.
As a player. And I believe she'll be back on next week's episode. So I still don't know the full effect of how this came to be, but I did hear some whispers in the preseason that this was happening, but I didn't want to investigate it because I didn't want to, spoil
Yeah.
myself essentially. I know more than I know, but I had seen her name float around and she's going
Now,
to be added in.
now is this a response to a Deontay quitting and throwing the numbers off?
I don't think so. I think she was always going to be brought in. This kind of feels like a surprise, like a twist they're throwing in. And I think it's an intriguing one at that. I'm just curious as to what her role is going to be. Not as in, is she a traitor or faithful, but is she just a regular player playing for the money, or is she got a side mission going on? I don't know, but I'm
Mhm.
very excited to find out next week. And I think Kate's a very fun choice. If y'all didn't watch season
Sure.
1, Kate was on last season, was essentially sussed for weeks on end or episodes on end. I was just never getting murdered because they knew she would eventually get banished, and it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, and this is like somebody coming in from Exile Island for the Bravo team.
Which is very interesting because she is from the Below Deck world. Shout out to the Big Deck
Mhm.
Energy podcast with Sasha and Chappelle. But I can't wait. I don't know a lot of her dynamics. Oh, looking at this cast, who does she know? Who is she familiar with? But she would be the only person who's played the game coming into the game. So I'm very curious how that plays out.
Yeah. All right. So we get back to the turret and we see the Traitors one more time. And so we see where Phaedra takes the hood off, says, "That wasn't cool."
That wasn't cool. And what was the other thing she kept repeating? That you have to play fair. You're not playing fair.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And also, nobody likes you.
Also, no one likes you. Yeah. Which also, I feel like based on what I've heard from about Phaedra, a bit of a gaslighter, can also be lying about the no one likes you. It just might be to get under Parv's skin or bring her closer. We'll find out more next week. But right now, I feel like Phaedra's heated up and ready to go. And again, this is the perfect energy to come in here and grab the murder from their hands and decide who gets murdered. And they
Yeah.
might just let you have it.
Okay. What do you think about Dan and like this? Wait, hold on. What happened? Why are you mad?
Liar, dude. He
Yeah.
is lying. I mean, we know this, Dan. Watching a fight, be like, oh, what's going on? I
Wait,
don't know.
what?
Perfect.
This guy gets away with everything.
I know. The thing is, she did say the both of you play fair. So I feel like Phaedra has probably correctly clocked that the two of them are a little bit in cahoots. Which, given how many camera shots they have of Dan and Parv talking alone in these rooms in the middle of the day, doesn't come to a shock to me that Phaedra's clocked that. So it'll
Yeah.
be interesting if
Says
it's a
both of you,
2v1 or
Frank says in the
2v1.
chat. Yeah. So yeah, I just like I guess I still can't get my head around. If I was a traitor, why do I want to like Pooya, help me understand, like, why does it make sense that I want to throw other traders under the bus? Is it like am I less likely to get caught if I can do a recruitment?
Okay, so I think it's a couple of things. Number one, if you remove people out the turret, you have the opportunity to bring someone into the turret that you would rather have, or you got to feed the ducks. And by that, if you feed them and you kind of had a hand in it and pushing the name out, you kind of get a little bit more faithful confirmed stink on you, which you want. The third thing is the old, I want to get them before they get me. And I feel like a lot of people that play the game as traders, more often than not, whether it's correct paranoia or incorrect, will think, well, if I get to the end with this person, they're going to stab me in the back to win the money. And I think they don't want that. So right now, for Dan, looking at Phaedra, he's thinking, well, Phaedra's going to outlast me. I'm not even going to have a shot at the money if she's here, so she needs to go. Kind of more so that, not necessarily that Phaedra's looking to target him. It's more so, I don't want to go, and I have to feed the faithful because they're barking up my tree.
Yeah. Yeah, I still don't agree with the logic, but, I guess I understand it a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, to put it in this terms, Rob, me, you, and the lovely Chappelle are traders.
Okay.
Do you fully believe that me and Chappelle will work with you to the bitter end and not stab you in the back, and we can split the money and go home happy?
I mean, I have to.
And for that reason, I would never cut you because you are incredibly nice, my best friend, and also a little naive, which I adore about you. It's a great quality.
Yeah. Look, I don't know. I'm not cut out to be a traitor, I guess.
I feel like I can't see you in a traitorous role as your nature, but I think you could pull it off. I think you'd be an entertaining traitor, Rob.
Yeah. Look, if they tap you on the shoulder, Pooya, what choice do you have?
Right, you're gonna go for it.
You got to do it. You got to do
Rob,
it. Okay.
I'll mail you this cloak.
Okay, I appreciate it. All right. Yeah. I want to take some questions from the listeners. We didn't get a ton. We could just be saving them for the feedback show coming up on Monday.
Well, whatever we don't answer, feel free to reach out to us to ask for us to talk about on the feedback show, because
Maximus' mom says Jacob Jones would unmask you so fast. So if Jacob Jones was the traitor,
no, all bets are off.
Yeah. Air is throwing us under the bus.
Ooh, caught up in us.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So let's see. Let's take some of your questions. Okay. Pooya, can you answer this question? eJammy03 wants to know if you or Mike Bloom can tell us if the trader's decision has to be unanimous.
As far as who to murder?
Yes.
Ultimately, they have to put one name on that card. And we've seen traders buckle and disagree with a move, but do it anyway. Yes, it has to be cleared by all three of you ultimately, but really someone's going to tap out. We've not really had two traders dig in their heels and say, I'm not doing this. So what are we going to do about it? I'd be curious to see how that works, but we've never had it yet. Yeah.
Okay. How about from Connor, would the funeral challenge be more fun if we didn't know who was murdered yet?
I think it depends, because
flashed back to the cup. Like, was there a lot that we I guess that we still have to get the reaction? I don't know.
I think it's dicey, because then you don't have the knowledge of, okay, Parv hasn't told them. Parv would be the only one who knows, but then we're not getting the Parvati confessionals. Then you're also not getting the very funny moments with Ekin-Su. You're not getting the reaction shots, zoom in on Ekin-Su at breakfast. I suppose later on you can watch it and see. But I feel like it's also the same question of, would you have more fun if you didn't know who the traders were from day one? Because I know there's people out there who would rather not know who the traders are and play along. So I think it just depends on how you take it. For me, I don't mind, because I already know who everything else is. Might as well know this too.
Yeah. I just don't think it's the show. I feel like the show has been pretty honest with us almost always about what the traders are up to.
Yeah, I feel like if you had given me is it MJ or is it Ekin-Su, based on what Parv said I kind of knew the right person to give it to, I would have gone with Ekin-Su over MJ anyway, as what the cliffhanger was last week. But if we didn't have that, I think I would have gone MJ like everybody else.
Okay. Angela says, could we just talk about how crazy it was that Parv didn't get caught with the poison the day after?
It's perfect. The perfect storm happened here, Rob. First, she didn't leave the chalice with Ekin-Su. Ekin-Su got it. I don't mind you drinking out of it. A little sip, gave it back, and perfect crime. You've disappeared. Also, Ekin-Su's perfect in that she didn't remember this. If Ekin-Su would remember this, she could have said, Well, I did have a drink passed to me by Parvati at
Well, you
one
wonder how
point.
many drinks she might have had before.
Right, based on the monologuing she was doing, this might have been wine number 3, 4, who knows? But also I think that Janelle bringing up the Larsa cheers really helps put the eyes away from anything else that had occurred. Also, they didn't know when the drink would have happened. By Janelle bringing up the Larsa thing, they can assume it happened at any point during the day, not just the post roundtable nighttime, which I feel like would have maybe made it a smaller list of people.
Pooya, Megan wants to know, who would the Traitors recruit?
Oh dear Lord. If they were doing it right now, this is where you're not getting a unanimous pick. It's a battle to the bitter end for the 3 of them. So I guess the question is, if they were recruiting at this very moment, low key, Rob, you might have to look at the exact same people they're looking to murder, because I don't think any side's going to give the other the advantage. I think someone like a Bergie could easily be easy pickings for a recruitment here, and would benefit Dan Parvati, might I add, based on the fact that he's been listening to them more on advice.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Hey, Pooya, did you see today that that a lot of people were flagging Ari had some comments about Suri today?
I did see this, matter of fact, Rob. I did. Ari still bitter about the outcome of Traitors Season 1 and a little self-righteous. Too self-righteous for my liking. Not gonna lie.
Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, almost I saw so much of this on Twitter, and here is one. Let me see if I'll put this up on the screen.
Yes.
Okay, this is some of this. So Ari did a Q&A on the Instagram, and he said, let's do a Traitors Q&A. Okay, sure. And the question was, have you and Suri, not spelled correctly, spoken since the end of your season? He said, that's a no. She won it in a dirty way, in my opinion, but she has to live with that. And that's all I'll really say. If I would have won in the end, then I would have left the game with a clear conscience. A lot was left on the cutting room floor during Endgame.
And tagged her in the post.
Oh, did he?
Tagged her.
Yeah. Yeah. But, I haven't thought about it. You know what? Bruh, she hasn't thought about it once.
No.
Since the end of the game.
First of all, she won 250 grand. You didn't. Second of all, she made you look stupid.
Stop it.
Stay feeling stupid. Third of all, I don't care. You signed up for a show called The Traitors. The Traitors. What is a traitor? Look up the dictionary. A dictionary is a book where words are defined, if you didn't know. And you probably don't know, dummy.
You just go to dictionary.com now.
Yeah. Also, I don't care how I played the game. If I'm touted as probably the best traitor to have ever done it, I'm happy with my legacy. I don't give a damn who I had to cut to get there. And I know Suri doesn't. So pipe down.
Yeah. Go start a group chat with Quentin and who is the other person?
Oh god, and this just came into conversation these last couple weeks.
Chat's gonna get it.
Chat's gonna tell us immediately. It's
Andy, right?
Andy.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, to me it's just such a dumb conversation.
Quentin reposted it.
Oh, there we go. Some things don't change, Rob. Yeah, to me, the someone has to get picked to be a traitor, and she was from day one. Her win condition was always get to the end by any means necessary. And if you're upset about that, I have nothing to say to you.
Okay.
Called the Traitors.
All right. Let's see. How about Gotta Go Pack says, if Dan wants one of the other Traitors out, it's better for it to be Parv or Phaedra. Well, Dan obviously thinks it's Phaedra.
I mean, he's made his bed now. I think now Phaedra's never gonna not look at him a little bit, at least. There was a conversation to be had before of getting a gamer traitor out. Then that way they might not think there's a second gamer traitor out. But also, we got to remember, Dan was the one who was most vocal about recruiting Parv, and also has been vocal now of Parv being very much a part of his end game. I don't think he's looking to cut Parvati anytime soon, and he's always going to look for Phaedra ahead of Parvati. But depending on how the future of this game goes, I think that Parvati could also be his undoing. So we'll see.
Did Phaedra make a mistake agreeing to Parvati being the third traitor? Like, is that a big, if they give you and the other person and you let the other person pick the person that they're closer to, was that a mistake on Phaedra's part?
I mean, there's a conversation to be had, especially because it was the first recruiting. It's not like you're doing a lot of traitorous stuff and then being revealed as, hey, look, isn't it funny how good I'm playing the game? It was early enough that she could have gotten another person in instead. But I don't think in the beginning it was a bad thing at all. I really don't.
Okay.
Kind of let it, like, again, let's remember, she kind of did let Dan make that pick and also kind of let Dan be more vocal in who to cut at the beginning. But she is still undetected. I still think she's under the radar. I don't think anyone's still looking at her as of this moment. So she's still fine, regardless.
Okay. All right. Cricket T says, don't you think the ultimate play for Phaedra and Parv is to team up and vote off Dan? Parv needs to posture this to Phaedra as appeasing Dan and throw him under the bus, right?
Interesting. So right now, obviously they've left us at a cliffhanger. We have a whole week to chat about this. But right now, I don't think there's smoothing things out with Phaedra. Given how Phaedra's reacted, you can't smooth this out right now. Now, if you play nice together for the next like round, maybe 2, there's some conversation to be had. But also, definitely don't take all the blame on the chin. Definitely make sure she knows Dan was involved as well, because that gives you a bit of a fighting chance in case she's trying to push for a traitor that maybe you're not the one that is pushed on. But by no means should you give Dan the free pass. I don't care if he recruited you. You gotta let her know, hey, Dan was kind of involved here too. Because what's Dan gonna do then? Push Parvati out over Phaedra? I think he still wants Phaedra gone over Parv. So
yeah, I mean, I could see a Black Widow brigade coming together, but I think that Dan has to like slip up with Parvati for Parvati to want to do that. Like, I don't think Parvati it's like she wouldn't do it, but I think that Dan has to like give her reason to do it.
I think so. I think right now it's abundantly clear to me that they're both on this trader's journey together.
Yeah.
And they're not really talking about cutting each other right now.
And I don't know that it seems like Parvati is Dan's number one. And I think that as long as that's the case, I don't think she's gonna cut him.
No, I there's no reason for her to do so unless Phaedra is mounting a complete opposition and it's successful. Then you throw his name out there. I think right now, if she throws the name out to Phaedra, Phaedra goes to Dan, then she's like burnt on both sides, which you don't want to be.
I'm really curious to know, what does Parvati know about Dan?
Oh, like his history of his games and stuff?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I would love to know, but I really don't. I haven't done my investigation, Rob. I
cannot imagine
investigation.
Parvati has watched much Big Brother. It does not seem like something that she would be into.
Well, I would agree with you, but also, yeah, I mean, even if the cast, like, they found out earlier who was going out there, did she have enough time to do a lot of research? I don't know. But the reality is right now, based on the way she's talking about him, I think she's, again, working very closely with him.
No, I mean, she does seem charmed by Dan.
Mm-hmm. Someone in the chat saying she didn't even really know who Dan was, is what she said. So there you go.
Because I feel like if she did know who he was, I feel like that she would be a little bit more suspicious and apprehensive around him.
Yeah, well, I mean, here's the biggest indicator. Dan was kind of acting a little suspect in that first night after they had decided to recruit Parv, because he kept going up to Parv and talking to her, and Parv was like, are you a traitor? He's like, no, I'm absolutely not. So if that didn't raise any flags for her, it's clear. They're fine. Like, I really don't see them turning on each other right now.
All right, let me give you one more question from Joey.
Yes.
If Dan wins this game, is he the reality TV GOAT?
I think there's still a lot of people that would say he's the GOAT regardless. And this is a conversation that I was going to have in the eventuality that someone like Dan, who is very much touted as a great player, if he was to come short here and got banished, let's say today. But I truly think that watching Dan's game in the first 3 weeks, watching it here, you got to remind yourself that this isn't Big Brother. These are different shows. And I think a different skill set is needed to win this, namely having a good, like, doing good socially and just being kind of like an active conversation really helps. If he wins here, I think a lot of people are going to call him the GOAT. But even if he loses, I still think a lot of people are going to call him the GOAT.
Yeah. I think that if he if he wins this and he's won 2 different shows and, got to the finals a second time on Big Brother, which is like very hard to do.
Back to yeah.
Like I feel like hard to come up with a goatier goat.
Right. I think I think he's already in the conversation, and I think he even gets like this will further solidify because again, I'm talking 2 different skill sets. He's won both at that point.
What about Sandra? What if Sandra wins?
I think then again, the debate, you can't really have it because then unless another winner of one of the other shows comes in and wins, they're in a conversation. It's kind of like EGOT status almost of how many of these wins do you have,
Okay. All right. Yeah. Pooya, anything else about the Traitors?
No, very fun episode. Again, I'm happy that Traitors Canada was doing week to week because I'm more used to this, talking about one episode isolated than moving to the next. And again, if anyone has any questions for us, we'll be back on Monday to cover your questions, do some feedbacking. So don't worry if you're listening to this over the weekend.
Send out a feedback link, okay? We'll send that out closer to the show coming up, and then we will get that out to you for Monday. Pooya, what else is coming up for you?
Well, Traitors UK has been going very strong. We are about to wrap up the 3rd week. Tomorrow there's one more episode, and I'll be getting back together with Annabelle to talk about it. It's been so much fun. So I do tell you,
I heard Annabelle is doing a great job.
Annabelle is killing it, Rob. Annabelle's energy is unmatched. She is incredible. She is the best faithful to have ever faithfuled in this game, and it's an absolute pleasure to get to talk with her on a weekly basis. And I will tell you, if you are someone who's impatient, and you're like, I'm sick of waiting for a week for more episodes, watch Traitors UK season 2. It hasn't wrapped up yet. We'll be talking about that. And then
we make it nice and easy for you to check it out in our patron international shows links. So you can check that out on our Patreon at robhasawebsite.com/patron.
If you're a patron, you get the goods.
But you could what's on Peacock? Season 1 is on Peacock?
Season 1 of UK, Australia, and US is on Peacock if you haven't watched any of those either yet.
And you could hear all of Pooya's recaps in the podcast feed. What's that? robhasawebsite.com/traitors feed?
robhasawebsite.com/traitors for the Apple feed, and then you can do a shore.by/traitors feed for all the other ones if you're looking for the Spotify and all of that.
Okay.
So you can check it out there. And then 90 Day Fiance has been going well, Rob. I've been back on the Hot Mess Express, and I talked with Scally this week about all the shenanigans there, and I'm talking with Sasha next week about more of it there too.
Okay. Well, Pooya, this was a lot of fun back in our regular Thursday night time slot. We'll do it again next week coming up at 10:15 p.m. Eastern time. Got something fun coming up tomorrow. There's another show that we've been binging over on Netflix. Chappelle and I have been keeping up with The Trust. And so you can catch our week 2 recap. We'll be live here on YouTube at 3 p.m. Eastern to talk about week 2 of The Trust. Plus, we've got some Survivor interviews that are up. Right now, we dropped our interview with Austin and then my interview with Jake. Plus, Chappelle and I talked with the creator of Suits, Aaron Korsh. You can catch that special interview in the Rob as a Podcast feed, or you can go to suitspodcast.com. Great fun here tonight. Looking forward to a Traitors feedback show coming up as well on Monday. Take care, everybody. Have a good one. Bye.